should we start by talking about the abs, or should we let the tension build? I think we have to start with the abs. So Kody in this episode is trying to explain why or how Janelle has really used him for his body after all of these years. He has nice shoulders and a great six-pack abs, he says. So I have so many thoughts. It's like the first is, it makes me more convinced that he's doing something in the way of testosterone. Like there's something that has led him to sort of emphasize his physical appearance. So that's one part of it. The part that I think is more interesting for the purposes of this channel is how diluted his thinking is. And, when you think about the different characteristics of somebody who meets the narcissistic diagnosis, one of them is this inflated sense of self, this sort of delusional view of who you are in comparison to the world around you. The way Kody was talking about who he is, how he is this piece of meat to Janelle, felt so distorted to me that it just sort of reminded me of that component of his personality. This is a man, I think, that is incredibly insecure, and as a consequence needs to constantly find ways in which he brings value. That's why it's so important to him that he is respected by his wives. That's why it's so important to him that his kids are deferential. And I think that's why it is so important to him that he has those wonderful locks of hair that stick out right. I mean, he has my same hairline, but he's got to have those wonderful glowing locks. I think because it's so important to him that he is sexually attractive. So that's all. I mean, when I heard that, I couldn't believe what he said. But to me, the real takeaway is it just shows you how distorted his thinking is. And I think that's a good segue. There's a lot of things that happened in this episode. One of those things was Christine talking about how she is really insecure about dating now because she's only had one sexual partner, and Kody, that partner, apparently didn't find her attractive and didn't think that the things she was doing were good in that department. And apparently Kody had made it really clear to Christine and even to Janelle that he didn't find Christine attractive. And so Christine's sort of working through that, and I'll say just as a side note, I appreciate Christine's vulnerability. I recognize that if I'm her, it feels that way. It feels like no one's going to be interested in me because I'm obviously not good at at intimacy. If I were her friend, I would say, hey, look, no one is going to dismiss you because you're not good at intimacy. The fact that you want to explore that side of who you are, I promise you, David, her new partner, I promise you anybody would be super supportive of her in that area. But the part that I thought was interesting was that this idea that Kody had consistently told her that he didn't find her attractive. And I don't think it's true. Not just because he's had a bunch of kids with her, but because I think the driver for him to say that is more about hurting Christine than it is him honestly expressing how he feels. Just think about it this way. Illogically, in a relationship, whether or not you are attracted to your spouse, you are a monster if you turn to your partner and go, I am not attracted to you. I think you're ugly. I think you're poor. You're bad at intimacy. Like that would be a very harsh thing to say. So to me, it's like, I don't think that Kody's just all of a sudden Mr. Honest. I think Kody's using those harsh things in an effort to hurt the women in his life, in an effort to keep those women down. And I think that Christine was public enemy number one because she always needed more from him. And I think he got frustrated with her. And so I think it was an effort for him to diminish her, to blame her for the poor relationship, the poor connection, and remove all culpability from himself. So if you're keeping a tally of how often Kody was an a-hole in this episode, you have the six-pack abs and nice shoulders comment. Then you have him diminishing Christine by saying she's not attractive. And then you have the conversation with Janelle about how he's mistreated Savannah. Janelle finally in this episode says, hey man, you haven't talked to your daughter in 6 weeks. You didn't give her a Christmas present. What gives? And Kody's sophisticated response is, what? He had zero excuse, right? He had no explanation for it other than he's been really busy and he's doing business at home. I get it. He's an arms dealer or he's involved in the arms business in some way. And so maybe he needs to be vague about what his business is, but it felt a lot like a massive excuse to me. And he used the same kind of massive excuse as he was talking to Janelle about the fact that he has checked out of their relationship also. Janelle here is finally holding him accountable and saying, I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. I want to take a break. And Kody is shocked by this because he thought, as he told TLC, look, I thought we would talk it out and it would be fine. I thought we would discuss it and she would just move on and forgive. I think she's just having, a recency bias because of the last couple of months or what. He had all these kinds of reasons why his behavior was okay. And I think that's kind of how he's operated through the course of all of these marriages, which is I can diminish and mistreat my wives whenever I want, and I can go do whatever I want and make myself happy. And then when I'm ready to resume the relationship with one of the wives, I walk in, I say whoopsie daisy, and we just resume the relationship. And it's not working now. Like, it's not working with Christine. It's not working with Janelle. It's not going to work with Meri. Like, it's just all of a sudden it's happening that he's being held to account. And I don't totally know why, like what changed. I understand that part of it is that his behavior during COVID was worse. I think part of it is that the wives are maybe more confident or have maybe a broader perspective as a consequence of the attention that the show has brought, the access to social media. I don't know what it is, but I think that everybody is sort of all of a sudden kind of simultaneously turning to Kody going, what the hell? I don't want to be a part of this. And so Kody's past behavior of the oopsie, sorry, let's resume the relationship is just simply not going to work anymore. And to that end, I want to talk about this idea of taking a break. Janelle didn't say I want a divorce. She said, I want to separate from you for a while so I can kind of figure myself out. And I just want to say, just when I worked as a marriage and family therapist, I never recommended couples take a break if the goal is or was to resume the relationship, a healthy relationship. And to be honest with you, I've never heard of it ever working. I know sometimes therapists recommend it. I think it's a horrific idea. Absence does not, the chances of you separating and then going, oh my gosh, I really missed that person, let's get back together again, I think is really, really poor. I get that it happens for some, but the odds are not in your favor. It is much better practice to stay connected and force yourselves to talk through whatever the challenge is. Go to therapy frequently and work through the issues. But to separate and think that being alone is going to somehow bring you together, I think is really, really unrealistic. And that I guess that to end this all, I guess I feel like I have to say, as it relates to Kody, he needs to go to therapy for a lot of reasons, right? One, for the relationship with Janelle, but also his grief about Christine is I think it is breaking him. I don't know that he recognizes that, but throughout this entire episode, he is constantly interrupting Janelle in the middle of their fight about their relationship to talk about how pissed he is with Christine. Sure, you want to be able to talk to your partner about whatever it is that is distressing you, but there comes a point when in this case, for example, there's a point where Kody's distress about Christine is dominating the relationship with Janelle. And I think that that's true, by the way, in any marriage. If you think about, when someone's having distress at work or there's family conflict or whatever it is, certainly you want to be able to talk about that with your partner. But if you're talking about it so much that it's now burdening your partner and it's derailing your relationship, that's a good indicator that you, whoever the grieving party is, needs to go talk to somebody. It is much healthier to have an outlet, someone who is a professional that can help you work through your emotions versus dumping it on your partner's lap day after day. So those are my main thoughts from the episode. I thought it was fun. I mean, I wish there was a way to get a shot of Kody's abs and nice shoulders or whatever he said. Sadly, we have to just leave that to the imagination. Let me know what you think in the comments below.